Well, everybody, I am super excited as always because this week my guest is Pili Fuentes. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And great. And her business is Las Floristas she's just outside of Mexico City. And this is going to be a packed episode because she has done and does so many incredible things. If you follow her, a lot of people, you may have heard of Flower House Mexico, and she started that among many other things. So, Pili, welcome so much to the Flower Podcast.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting the people that I come across and they're like, "You need to have Pili on the Flower Podcast," and I'm like, "Yes, I agree." And I mean, just so many people think so highly of you and everything that you do, and so I just appreciate this time so much. I really do.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Well, I always start at the beginning, and so everyone has a colorful journey, especially with flowers. And so I'm wondering, how did you find your way into the world of flowers?
I was a kindergarten teacher, and I remember I used to go to the flower market in the afternoons to get whatever flowers and just to put things together, for my house. And then some friends like, "Oh, can you do the same to my house?" But I was teaching at the time.
Right.
Um, and there was a point where after many years, 6 years, I debated myself. Is that I want to go to Italy to get this certification from teaching, or should I just do flowers and just go directly to workshops and like dedicate myself? And I tried to leave the school, but then they gave me the principal for kindergarten, of all kindergarten in this
What?
school. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me see.
No pressure.
And then, right. And then I was like, okay, I'll give it one more year. And I tried to be like in the administration. And then
Right.
after that, I found out that I like children, not parents or not adults.
That's not a
Like dealing with
surprise.
it. It's like, I like children and flowers. So this is not from, and then it was the highest position. So then I quit. I quit and decided just to dedicate myself. So that was 2016. And when I started, I went to an Ariela's workshop, Tulipina, and I started to practice myself. Like practice what we had in Mexico and travel. And I worked a few years, or for a full year with Ariela,
Like
just to
doing
see her.
destination weddings or like
Yeah, I was
freelancing?
like, I'll go. I'll just do whatever. I'll sweep the floors. I'll just, because I want to see how you work. And she was quite nice enough. I had taken her workshop and practice. So she's like, no, jump in as a designer. Like she trained me and helped me. She's my mentor. And then I started to work with her. And then I started to work with other designers as a freelancer, because I wanted to see what was this new um, tendency of flowers, garden style and in this elegant way, and like airy, um, and that's how it started. It.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you said that because I feel like a lot of times people have said on the podcast that if, go ask, go try to work for free, go try to do whatever. But I think that by investing in a workshop from someone, number one, you're getting to learn some very valuable lessons. Two, you have that opportunity to connect with that person and they get to see your work ethic or see how you approach things and how do you take criticism or how whatever in that learning process. What a great way to get to know somebody that maybe even then you said I'll sweep the floors, I don't care, and I love that. And I mean those are two huge names, Kiana and Ariella, to take their workshops, and that's interesting. And then but I know there are some schools in Mexico that do some things. I mean, have you been to those, or do you feel like that's just a
No, they were,
different look?
yeah, back then they were not open. There were no schools here.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
it was
true.
like
That was
I took some classes, like I got the certification, like little by little, the New York Flower School.
yeah,
But where you learn them, well, my experience, or where I had the best experience, like the most, it was with Ariella. Like working and on this, it's not only your design, but it's understanding so many things around it.
yeah,
And yes, for sure you have to invest. For sure you have to take a few, even now today I want to take some workshops, because there's like updates or other ways to see things.
sure.
There's so many new younger designers that I want to learn from them, because the way they play with flowers, and it's just like a new tendency. And then of course I see it and I want to learn about it, no? And it's matter of investing for you as a designer, but also having the experience to work as a freelancer.
Yeah. I mean, and what an opportunity. I mean,
Hmm.
most people don't have that opportunity to work in an event or whatever that is of those scale, or of the scale that these designers work in. And I mean, not only what an incredible skill set you get to develop, but just wrapping your mind around these very large, colorful events, I think is really incredible. So,
Mm.
so that's from a freelancing. That's how you got educated. But now you have your own business that you still run too. So tell us about that. And then for those of us who grow and like to, maybe are a flower farmer, I want to hear about that too, because I didn't realize, that you also grew flowers. You don't now, but you did at one point.
Yes. So by seeing flowers, I was like, how do you make this? Like how do you how does this beautiful flower comes from a seed or a bulb or a tuber? And I wanted to learn sustainable floriculture, and I understood that biodynamic agriculture was a very complete and well taken, agriculture. So I started to I looked in Mexico for someone
Huh?
that could teach me and let me just grow, like in a little spot, flowers.
Sure.
And so in Xochimilco, in Mexico City, there's this, in the south of the city, there's like this area where there's channels and
Uh-huh.
there are pieces of lands floating. And excuse me, um, I found someone that knew biodynamic farming and wanted to take my project. And I started to go, but it's really hard to get there. So you have to go 1 hour away from where I am based in Mexico City, um, by car, but you have to park it and you have to take a canoe like for half an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And I know. So I used to go like 2 or 3 times a week just to understand about the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the sun, and then how to make, like compost, regular compost with
Right?
warm, with like really, really the real thing farming with the cycles of the moon. And that was amazing because we started to put like dahlias and zinnias, and when we had the flowers, I was like shocked, like how could you do such a cleaned agriculture with flowers? And then the flowers were just clean. Like to me, it was amazing.
Yeah.
No pesticides, you're not contaminating anyone. Unfortunately, we had an earthquake, and that part of Mexico got really harmed. So it was really hard to get there. We had to bring the water in the canoes, and at some point, it was just not sustainable to have the flowers there. So we have to pick up everything and find another place, like in
That's
Mexico
tough.
City. It's just, yeah, so that's what it makes it like urban farming, it's not that easy.
Right.
So, but I started to go with Krishana, my friend in Massachusetts. She has like a, a huge flower farm in Martha's Vineyard, and I
What's
learned
the
a
name of
lot
her
from
farm?
her. T-Lane Farm,
Yeah. Okay.
T-Lane.
Elaine.
And she taught me a lot. She gave me a lot of books to keep but more understanding the flower farming.
Mm,
And then we started to talk about regenerative farming versus biodynamic. You can do both, but biodynamic farming, it's very regulated by the moon cycles, and then sometimes you need to cut the flower
mm.
you because you have the event, and even
Right.
though it's not a cutting, you have to. So that's when I dropped biodynamic, and I started with more regenerative farming. Then we had um the pandemia, and then again we had to pick up everything, just wait, like. So it's been tough to farm in the city. I tried outside Mexico City, and again, things you need to be there every day, night, and then it's just hard to leave the city, come back, um and do it by myself. So it kind of like got like harder while I was doing weddings and
Oh my
events
goodness.
by
Yeah.
my business. So at some point I just said, I need to choose. I need to stop and like and see what I
Sure.
want as a priority. And then at some point I went to see a flower farm. I had a friend in Barcelona, and she told me, Pili, you need to come and see this farm. Maren, she's such a great a lady, friend, farmer. And I went to see it in Costa Brava. She's in her Horta de la Viola. It's her name. And I saw, so when I went, it was the summertime, no rain, no water, dry, 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 super hot. I remember Maren had a problem with her will, and she used to get, Maren is the farmer. She used to get a bottle of water and just feed a little bit water to this flower every other one, and then the next day every other one. And she had such a beautiful flowers, like the dahlias. The flowers she has are mesmerizing. So like I learned a lot from her, and we talked, and I said, how do you how do you deal with this? Who do you share it with it, and how do you solve it? And is there any association or anything that in Europe, like you could
Right.
talk to a farmer in
Some kind of
Poland?
support. Right.
Yeah, like, I mean, you guys are many countries, but I mean, you should, I'm sure there's someone in Italy with the same problem. And how
Right.
do you, it's like, we don't have that. Like, what do you mean? Like, any farmer that like flower farmer that that is around the area, or I don't know, just grow my flowers. I sell them to the hotels, maybe some weddings here and there, and I'll do a few events, and that's it. I was like, Martin, let's do something about it. At the time, I used to go and a lot to Martha's Vineyards, to Krishana's farm. So the next time I saw Krishana, I told her, we need to go to Spain, and I need you to meet someone, because Krishana was very involved with the associations in the US for flower farmers. And so we went to Spain, but this is February 2020.
Oh my goodness.
We didn't
Yeah.
know. We
Crazy
didn't know. We
time.
didn't. We
Yeah.
just thought it was something in China. And so we sat down together and we started to talk, and I said, let's just do something for the community in Europe. Let's just create something. Like, why don't we just create one? Why don't we just start finding out who are the farmers in Europe, and like, there's so many ways to do it, and let's just do it, an investigation, and see. So we did, And that's when the Association for Flower Growers, the European Association for Flower Growers was born there.
And how
Right
did
there.
people
So
receive it? How did people, did they get
it was
excited
such a
about it or?
success. It
Yeah,
was such a success. The 2 years that we did the conference. So the conference, because there was the pandemic just behind us.
right.
So we had to do it online. And
Mm,
people started to get used to Zoom and Google
sure.
Meets and all these platforms. So there was when we launched it, we hired an excellent team of events online. So when we launched the conferences, we had a lot of farmers from Europe coming in. And then as a panelists, Europeans, Americans, like many great guests. So it was a success. And then we did it for 2 years in a row. But then everything started to get open. Nobody really wanted to be in the computer. And that's why it's on hold. But
Mm,
that's how we started it, and it was such a great experience just to see how many farmers from Europe, like Switzerland, Poland, Ukraine, Spain, Italy. Well, we included UK, Portugal, France. Like we were like, there's so many. It was just so great to have that, to see that happen.
that's amazing.
So that's what
Well,
that, like from farming,
yeah.
um, the just to, I think it's just to see something, how it happens, and then I get the passion and I could get the drive. I was like, let's do something.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I know I said before we started recording I love about you is when you see a need, you just feel like you tackle it and you jump on it and get it done and get it and accomplish that goal. I was wondering, so your business now, obviously you freelance, you're not farming, but you do weddings and things there in Mexico City or around that area, or
Hmm.
do you travel, or how does that work?
Yeah, Mexico City and some destination, Cabo and Punta Mita, but more Cabo. So, yeah, anything like in Mexico. I'm not freelancing now, um, for now, and yeah, I do my own small weddings. I have a few. Also, I help florists. There's a big amount of florists that come from overseas to do weddings in Mexico. And that's very interesting because they don't know how the flower markets work in Mexico, and it's quite different. It's
It
just
is. Tell us about
I
that
just say
because I know when we were talking the last time, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you because the things I've heard and which is one of the great again a need you see and help fill. So tell us about that.
it's just different from, like, you make your wish list, and that stays a wish list always until you see what you get. Um, so if you go to Jamaica market, it's one of the most um, exotic, surprising, um, mesmerizing market that you could see in Mexico for flowers. The other ones are very boring because they have like big trucks, or like you can get one bunch or the entire truck. And then if you're not buying, just leave. Those markets are, but those are the ones that you um where you go and get flowers where you cannot get in Jamaica. So that's a fact, and people don't understand that. People, they go and they think that you go to Jamaica market, the well known, and you're like, oh, can I have 7 bunches of that? No, there's only two, and that's it. So if you're planning just to go to the market and see what you see for your wedding, you might get one or two bunches, and that's it. If you need seven, so you have to pre-order with some dealers or growers or other wholesalers, and you have to know them. and you have to know some growers, and you have to, because sometimes people that work in the market for a flower grower won't talk to that lady, but they're not, but they, they have their own drama. So you just go directly to the grower, and can you send it to the office and I'll pick it up. Like
Right.
it's just, and you have to, pay ahead, or you have to, unless you're doing like many events, and then they'll just know that you're coming back to pay. Otherwise, no. Um, so you have to make a pre-order list, wish list. It's always a wish list, because you don't know you don't know if you're gonna get it or not until the very last minute. So they can tell you, oh, you're 25 bunches of blue delphinium that you wanted, 25, because everything is blue, and we only got 7.
So now, is that 7 from a local grower? They only got that,
All
or
that, all
oh,
or they sell it to someone else that paid more, and they were just. But normally, they, like, if you pre-reserve with this,
right.
like dealers, normally they respect it. But then, like, oh, it was raining a lot, or there was a draw, or it was too cold, or so we only get 7. So there's not like in the US that you get 26 bunches because you order that, and all beautiful. And so there's a lot of
Well, but part of that, let me interrupt. But part of that is you were telling me this, and I was really surprised. And I think it's something unique that Mexico doesn't let, well, what, only lets Holland import flowers in?
only from Holland,
So,
not Ecuador, not Colombia, no.
yeah, you're right there near all of these amazing farms and countries that grow flowers, but you have Holland and you have Mexican product, and that's it.
Exactly. And
So,
Holland,
yeah.
it's quite expensive. It's
Yeah, I
not,
bet.
it's not like, because we are against the euro, like like we pay like euro fee plus taxes plus like importing taxes. So it turns out to be expensive. So, like it's just very hard to for an American florist to come to Mexico and expect, like, what do you mean? Like, you don't get this? And this is one thing with the flowers. The other thing is cargo, and the other thing, it's a lot of like, and then let's just see if your flowers leave. And if you get your flowers today or tomorrow or the day after. And it's just, it's so what I do is I help florists to do with their list. Like I fetch sometimes they ask me for candles or tablecloths, or things that I know where the manufacturers are, and I'll just pre-order them for them. I'll just fetch their order of anything they need and make sure they get it in their destination when they can.
Yeah. Well, I know we at the time we're recording this, we just released an episode with Meg Hutchison, the Florista, and I again, your name came up with someone that I met when I was in Ecuador, and I thought, well, I would give Pili a call, give her a call, and see maybe she can help you. And then later, I found out that that's one of the things you do is if you are doing a wedding, a destination wedding in Cabo or Mexico City or somewhere there, that they can reach out to you, and that's a service you provide, is helping them. You're sort of the boots on the ground, and I think that's great because people, when you're from out of town, it's so helpful.
It is because it is really helpful, because it's really different. It's really different. So, and I always explain, this is what the process is. These are the risks. This is, what, we're going to try to do your best. We'll send you pictures of the
Right.
substitutes that we want. But it's just, yeah, like, or when they order candles, these Mexican candles are beautiful, or embroidered, typical like runners
Yeah,
for weddings, or glasses, or like, I was like, I know, where the factory is, I know who makes them, like, I
sure.
help them to do that too.
Sure. I think that's great. I really do. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I've been in the wholesale end for a very long time, and I probably once a year I get the question, we're doing a wedding in Mexico, and can you ship me flowers? And
Mm.
I immediately go to no, because I mean, with customs and duties and whatever, I just know that uh, that's a skill set that I don't really have the bandwidth to deal with. So I always try to encourage some other people. And this past time I was like, call Pili. And I mean, having a point of contact. So if you're listening on the podcast and you are going to do a wedding in that area and you need help sourcing flowers, this is something she does. And I mean, she's worked for amazing people. She has her own business. She's grown. She knows you are the flower connection in Mexico City. No pressure, no pressure. But I think that's great. I really do. It's so helpful. Um and so like the weddings you do and the events you do for yourself, for your business, do they tend to be like media? I don't know how to quantify them. I mean, do you do big? I mean, since you've done these big events, do you do big events, or because that may be more than you want to tackle, do they tend to be a little smaller size events? I mean, I don't know how weddings are in
Yeah,
Mexico.
my weddings are smaller. They're
Okay,
normally for foreign people like Americans or Europeans, and they're really small, very detailing. You know, my school, like very detailing, like a lot of
sure.
um, um, landscape on the table, very exquisite it needs to be. So because Mexican weddings are big,
Yeah.
you know, like that medium size or medium wedding, it's 500 guests. And
A medium sized wedding is 500
yes,
guests.
yes, and
Wow.
I've
Okay.
freelanced for Mariana from Bamboo Flowers, and she is an amazing large scale wedding florist in Mexico. Very talented, very creative, and I've learned so much from her. Besides, I love her, and she does quite big events. So it's not my. I mean, I've freelanced for her, and I've worked for her, and but my niche is smaller,
Sure.
and so I do a few weddings in Mexico City or Cabo, and you know, like I love and adore doing that. But that's like a small, really that's a smaller size
Yeah.
and a different niche.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Um, well, another thing that just happened not too long ago, that you founded was Flower House Mexico.
Yes, yes, sir.
And I mean, some of the things I've seen photographed out of this particular event over the past years, and the teachers you have over I don't know, what, 5 years or five? You've had it 5 times, I
Five
think.
editions.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
5 editions. That's the right word. Um, Tell us why, how. I know that it's about raising money. So tell us more about Flower House Mexico.
So in 2017, at the end of the year, I found a little little fat mass on my leg. It's just a little like a pole thing, and
Uh-huh.
I had removed it, and they told me, "Billy, this is not only fat mass. You know, it's malign,
Uh,
so you need to go to this hospital because it's really rare." You need to go to this hospital. It's a public hospital in Mexico. Public hospitals in Mexico are, you know, like, or if this is a research public hospital.
okay.
And public hospitals in Mexico normally are, you know, for people that don't have insurance or anything, or they have this,
Specialty or
yeah, like social number.
oh,
They
okay.
work, but they're very basic. And this was, you know, they told me this is where you need to go. And I found, um I was really scared, you know, and then
Yeah.
2018, I went to the hospital and I started to see a lot of people not only dealing with the health problems, but that, you know, you could tell it's people with really no money that come from all over the country. They don't even speak like Spanish. They speak dialects,
Yeah, right.
and they sleep on the floor outside the hospital when at night because they have no place to go.
Right.
And I started to get more into that. I had it clean the fat mass and went for a few radiations, and that was it for me. But in the process of me, being there
Mhm.
every day, I turned around and I remember being, I need to help him. I need
Mm.
to get a bottle of water for him. He's not drinking water. Or, I need, look at her. She doesn't have a bandage. Like she's been using it for so many. So I will just go and get things. And at some point I had to stop. And then I had this conversation with Ariela. Um, she, she said, because I was like, I have the need of, excuse me, I have the need to help. And I have this, thing that drives me, because you're not dealing with an illness only, but there's more. And she said, Pili, do you remember Lisa one of what I've worked with freelancing in Michigan with Jen from uh, uh, Bloom Floral? And I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you remember she made Flower House Detroit? I was like, oh yeah. Talk to her, because her project, it was just tearing down a house, intervening with flowers, and maybe you get inspired for, like something that you want to do something. I don't know,
Mhm.
she did something very, very cool with designers. So I called her. It's like, yeah, but mine was not to help. It was just tearing down this house, and yeah, we
Right.
did get donated flowers, but it's like, no, let me just create something that it's inspired by, like having bringing designers like Detroit Flower House. But then we have to give. We have to give, you know, um, we cannot only, get from flowers, but how do you give back?
Mm. Right.
Um,
Yeah, especially because you're working with local people there to get to source the flowers.
mhm,
And
exactly.
it's important for them to see the connection.
Right. So I said, I'm gonna create this workshop. It took me a few weeks, but I said I'm gonna create this workshop with people. They need to come and learn from designers, and they'll just have um, a space to work and see their creative process, um, and create something with the students. And since I've worked with a lot of designers, I
Right.
knew what the scheme of their workshop were, and I knew how they work, when they teach. So I didn't want to create something that they've already done, so I wouldn't interfere with, like I'm gonna see Ariela in Mexico. Then I'm not gonna go to Holland to see it. It's totally different,
Right.
like, or Nicolette or
Well, and that's important. Yeah.
Diana. So I knew exactly how they work. And I was like, I am not going to interfere with their work, because, they're generous enough to come to teach here for free. So it's been like that, and it hasn't changed much. Each designer gets 5 or 6 students. And they come, it's normally 5 or 6 designers that come, and it's a 3-day program, workshop where you make this installation. So the very first year, I call my friends. I call Ariela, I call Kiana, Nicolette, and Studio Mundin. I was like, do you guys want to come and teach? And I am not gonna pay for anything. So this is all volunteer, and we're getting the flowers donated, and we're getting the space donated to. Like, it is the very first edition. It was a house that it was going to be or tear down or remodelated, and they were just going to do a huge construction change, and that was given for free. And so I said, let's just do it and sell it and see how it was. And it sold out. It was sold out because you had Kiana, Ariela,
Right.
Nicolette, Studio Mundin to come in and teach. And you spend 3 days with the designer, and you see the creative process. You see how it works, how they develop something, and then you're working with them as a student. You're really putting hands on. And at the same time, we created a few classes for everybody, like demonstrations for internal ones. Like let's see how Ariela makes a tablescape, or how Kiana makes a beautiful arrangement, or Nicolette makes a beautiful bouquet. It was just a demonstration, and that was it. So the first year was a success. Well, all of the years I cannot complain at all. And at the time, I was like, okay, so when I get the funds, who do I give them to? So I went to
Right.
the hospital, and they had no time for me. They really never respond. They're like, yeah, we're busy saving lives. And it's hard to donate at a state um, institution in Mexico because tax-wise, there's just many things. And I had just the funds. And I was like, how am I, how do I do this? How
Right.
do I do this? I don't want this money, no?
Yeah, you wouldn't think
So
that'd be a hard thing to do, but there's ways of doing it that
of course, I
right.
was more into flowers than, like the law in Mexico. So since Mexico, it's a country that everything gets into doubt. I found this foundation that works in a line with St. Jude's Hospital in Mexico, and they help children with cancer. I was like, okay, I will, can we, and they trusted me. Can we have every student to deposit you the money, and I'll just, pass the expenses list, and then you keep whatever whatever the profit is, but we need to give this hospital something. And they were like, okay, let's do it. Let's see how your project is. It was really little at the beginning. And then the profit was, like taken by, it's called Casa de la Amistad, Niños with Cancer. Um, and it's been a foundation for 30 years. So it's very trustable.
Right.
And they respect, like we helped, the patient in the hospital um, with her problem, and they kept the rest for the children.
Sure.
And we invited always the children to come and see what we were doing. So, we had more interaction, and designers and students knew like where the funds were going.
Mm.
So that was the first edition, 2018. And then 2020, we January 2020, we go for the second edition in Mexico. And then we had the pandemic. So Casa de la Amistad did the whole process. All the like state office were closed in Mexico, so we were
Right.
like, holding up, but we did it. And at some point, the hospital was not really, they've never had time for me and my little donations because they're saving lives, and it got in the pandemic, it got really crazy for hospitals. So we had Casa de la Amistad kept all the funds to help them because they had the sources to help the children that they were
Right.
struggling. And then after the pandemic, we hit Oaxaca, and we had also Casa de la Amistad. So we were helping children with cancer. Oaxaca was a hit because it was 3 years after the second edition. People wanted to
Yeah,
travel.
they were ready.
They were ready to go. So Oaxaca was a huge hit. We sold out in 2 hours. Sold out. Didn't
Well,
have any spots.
the thing I want to say that I did not know, because traditionally when you go to workshops, you may spend a few hours with this person and a few hours with this person, learning a bouquet, learning a centerpiece, learning an installation. You may do that, but when you sign up with Flower House Mexico, you signed up for that teacher for the whole time. So you're not just getting these little bite-sized things. You're getting a 3-day immersive experience with that designer because you choose your designer. And I thought, wow, that's different and that's huge opportunity. Number one, for building this cool community among so many big teachers that do a really great job, but also that students can choose sort of their genre, if you will, that they can, you know, sit at the feet of Ariella or Kiana, whoever, to learn how they do it, just like you would going to one of their workshops somewhere else. And I don't know, I really liked that format, and I think it's a very powerful way to do it. And of course for a great cause. So what a neat experience.
It is a great experience, really. And then you get to gather with other people to see more florists. And then you go across the hall and you have Genia doing this beautiful and amazing
Yeah.
installation, and you can go and ask him, even if he's not, he's not
Right.
your designer. So it's very friendly, and a lot of like it gets magical because at the end the cause is it's just amazing. Until last year, we applied to be ourselves a non-for-profit independent,
Sure.
because the problem is not a problem, but the thing is, like, the funds are from the US,
Right.
and it was just very hard. We lost a lot of money in even Casa de la Amistad with having the funds to Mexico City. It was just paying some Casa de la Amistad to do the project when we could just directly send the funds to
Right.
wherever we want.
Right.
So, and then it took us one full year to gather the information, IRS, uh, all that to make it happen. And we are now officially, we are a non-for-profit organization, and we are this year we're getting to it's a bed for cervix cancer in the same hospital. So cervix cancer with some attachments that they said they really need it, that they really don't have it, and they'll help 600 patients a year to give a better
Wow.
diagnosis, or to cure, or to like it's been a very slow project, like the process, just becoming independent, and now we're like the big girls. Like we have our accountant, we have our board, we have a committee, and that put us in a scale position where we really have to do this every year better and better and better.
Well, it's an ever evolving process, but just to hear the impact that you're having, you're investing in what you're doing there, which only will help reach more people too. So I think it's great. So you just finished with this year's. Is there definitely going to be one in 2026?
Yes, we have the venue already.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, yeah, we have. It's going to be Mexico City. Mexico City, it's very easy for us to do it. Before we go to another destination, we need to settle down, like calm down. But it's very fun. It's very easy to get here. Um, it's trendy, like there's many things happening in Mexico City. So we found it was very easy for students to come, designers, and get the flowers. We're like in Oaxaca, what's quite difficult, because we had to bring a truck to Oaxaca and bring the flowers, and that was it. No more. This is what you get. This is it. So that forced a lot of us or
Sure.
designers to go forging and get it around, which made it more magical. Like, but then it gets like we need to have something local home before we go. But yes, we have a date. The dates are the 20th to the 23rd of January. Um, hold on. And we have a venue. I'm so excited.
Well, the thing I think, I mean, there's a lot of things, but I don't know. I feel like, especially having it in Mexico City, where things are more convenient, where you maybe have more options. I feel like, in a way, it helps conserve funds also and resources because you don't have to have extra people or extra, you know, trucks and, drivers and things like, to get people, get things in a place that is only,
Right,
it's convenient. I don't know. I'm not
right.
saying that very well, but it's just convenient having it there. And it probably saves you a lot of money doing that too. So
Yes, yes.
yeah. Yeah. Which means it's
And
more money for somebody to be helped. So
so
yeah,
the less we spend, the more we help.
there you go.
So we
Exactly.
always say that. So it's
Exactly.
January 21st to the 23rd,
Okay.
2026.
So
Yes.
people would fly in like on the 20th
They
and then it's,
normally, yeah, or you know what? Because I think it's a holiday. I- It's Martin Luther King, I think.
oh, that might be that Monday. Yeah, might be.
Mhm. They, yeah, they, or students normally come from the weekend before and stay a few days in Mexico City.
Uh-huh.
And the classes are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, and then they stay on the weekend. So it's kind of like
I see.
a good break.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's really awesome. And it's for a great cause, and I think that's a great way to tie in community and these people. They can benefit and learn, and then there's other people that benefit with getting the help they need with whatever challenge life has thrown their way. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that has given us a lot of good lessons
Sure.
and tons of learning, but also, and it sounds very romantic, but really helping with flowers, really helping what we do, like I am a designer. I'm going to teach this class, and I'm going to help someone that is
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a win-win-win. So yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's great. I um I'm curious, being that you've been involved with this, you've been involved freelancing on these, with various people, doing weddings and events, you've had your own business. When you are freelancing and as you've been gone to workshops and you have invested in yourself, what do you see like trend wise as far as Mexico goes? Like, is it that different from America when it comes to the way you operate your business, or is it? I know from sourcing flowers it's different, but I'm just curious. Is it basically the same?
Yeah, it looks very much alike. Like if it's especially my events are smaller.
Sure.
Larger events in Mexico are different. Sometimes you have to fill a wall of green. That's it. But you don't see that much in the States. Although we had to do one in Hamptons with Ariela. But yeah, it's mine. It's very similar to the American ones. That it's, like you have the rehearsal dinner, you do the flowers for the wedding ceremony, and the breakdown. So it's very, very much the same of what I've worked overseas or even in Europe, as what I do, very small detail.
Hmm.
Like uh, yeah, the details need to be really, really spotless. But that gives you, I it's hard. um I think it's easier that to watch out and to take care of these details when there are smaller weddings, for sure.
Oh, sure, for sure. What is one of the biggest things you think you've learned from freelancing for other people?
Um, it's a good question. I think it's respect,
Mm, yeah.
um, understanding the design, respecting your like, this is what you need to do. Don't know if you like it or not, just do this and replicate it. And that's a lot of respect because it doesn't matter how you feel, like not how you feel, but how you want to do it, because in that moment you're in this trendy or tendency or
Right.
so that helps a lot, to appreciate other designs, appreciate um, the the new things that could be done, and maybe you wouldn't think of, to solve it that way. And that helps when you go to another job and you said, oh, you know what, we had this kind of like the same problem
Mm,
that we're having now, and I think I can give you an idea how to solve it or how to go this way, maybe try this way. So I think by freelancing with many designers gives you more experience of solving problems, or, like making designs or improvising,
sure.
when, things happen last minute. I think that's, and it also, you're with your friends, so like you're spending some times with your friends doing flowers and having fun and making beautiful weddings or making beautiful things. So that's one of my favorite ones and the best learnings.
Right. Well, I think that's interesting though, when you realize that it may not be your style, it may not be how you would do something, but that's how you learn because you're going to do it differently. And their client maybe wanted that style, so you have to kind of come out of your comfort zone and step out there in faith and then execute. And then you get to see the whole big picture too as it all comes together.
Right, right. And then of course I worked with very creative people, so just it's an honor, sometimes it's just an honor to be there
Sure.
to help and to make it happen, because it's just so beautiful and so creative. um yeah.
Sure. What do you think has been one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
I think my leg, the leg,
Well, sure, yeah.
that was, I had the very last surgery last year, which was really, really big. And I'm still recovering it. And that it had an impact with, my freelancing or just
Right.
being with that. That's the biggest challenge. But at the same time,
Hmm.
gave me the time to sit down, because I had to, like
Yeah.
be laying down or sitting down to get better for Flower House Mexico, to do better
Mm.
these, like, so. And when I still had the surgery and being in how do you call,
Like rehab?
yeah, I will do weddings. I will just go in a wheelchair, like, all right, let's just do this and that and coordinate more. So I've never stopped.
Sure.
Of course, it's been a challenge, but also a gift, because he has given me the time to appreciate more things, or the time to, like that Flower House Mexico was like, okay, I have the time. Why don't we create this list of, you know, things that we can improve? And then, why don't we do this? Well, how do we solve this? What if this happens? These are the scenarios. How would you have this mind to do it? So that has been giving me a lot of peace and space and time, so it's a big challenge, but also a great
Right.
opportunity.
Well, it's interesting just talking today and having our time together. I can see where if something like that didn't happen to you, you probably wouldn't ever slow down.
No.
And even in a wheelchair, you're on to the next three things probably. And which I think that's a great quality, but I also think Yeah, I mean, you took advantage of that opportunity in a way to, I hate to call it an opportunity, but it kind of was, where all of a sudden you got to improve some other things that needed attention. And I think that's great. I mean, I really do. And I commend you for your attitude, because I feel like sometimes that attitude is life changing in itself. So,
Right. No, and it really has stopped. I've learned also to listen to my body. And, when
sure.
my body says you need to stop, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna stop. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. The learning and listening to your body, and so I had to stop and do more, quiet things, and taking care of things that probably were not gonna happen. We know we're not gonna be taken care of because of the running and moving, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I mean, I hate to ask this question because what you just said was awesome. Um, but we usually, I love to ask this advice question at the end of every episode where, is there a piece of advice that you would give our listeners today, that either personally or professionally, that you think that would make a difference?
Um, that's a good question too. I think I would say, if you have an idea and it makes you like vibrate, do it. Go for it, because it's telling you that it's worth it to try. So go for it. It's just, a thought that has something in that you can feel, um when you think about it, or when you have this idea, and just makes you feel like a vibration or something inside you. Go for it, because that's the answer. It's a yes. Go for it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, how can people, what's the best way? Let me ask you this way. What is the best way for people to learn more about Flower House Mexico? Or is there an email list they can get on so they can get notified? I mean, especially if they're selling out kind of quick, you kind of want to make sure you're on the list.
Sure. The best way is just through Instagram. We will be
Okay.
announcing the designers that will come. And then we'll just announce when the opening is for enrollments.
Okay.
We always go on stories like a lot of times, and posting. So, people get to see it for more than a week that we're launching it. And that's the best way, because they'll take you to the link of the web page,
Sure.
and that's when you start enrolling, and just get your space there.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. Well,
Sure.
and also I'll tell you, on Instagram in that top right hand corner, there used to be, I think there still is a bell that if you click that bell, then that gives that feed priority to make sure you don't miss it, because you don't want
Right.
to do that. And I would encourage you, if you haven't ever gone and looked at Flower House Mexico's Instagram page, there are so many great images and inspirational moments, and you can see what students have done in the past with their teachers. And I don't know, I just think it's an inspiring page that I know some of our guests that have participated with you in the past, we talked about it, and it's a highlight, or it's a great experience for everyone, the teachers, the students. I think the flower farm, I mean, I think it's just really such a great time. So thank you for doing that for many reasons, but what an opportunity to just pull so many great people together. So
Thank
um,
you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain and to share a little bit of it with you.
sure. Well, Pili, thank you for being on the Flower Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.